And hello again from the stock certificate room here. And I speak English now because we have Martin Ellis from Nordic Waterproofing Group joining us now. And he will present the company in English. So I hand it over to you, Martin.
Yeah, thank you very much, Oscar. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for listening in. If we move on to the first slide, what I'm going to do today is to present our company briefly and our strategy, and then I'll touch also on the latest results. Our business case is based very much on sustainability. When we IPO'd in 2016, we were very much focused on our core legacy business, which is waterproofing membranes, which we produce and also install in some countries. And these materials are very long-lasting, 50 years plus. So in itself, obviously, it's a very important contributor to reduce use of material, and it's also a very important factor in keeping the insulation material dry. Wet insulation material is not insulating anymore, so we contribute considerably with our material to making the whole building a low energy consumer. We have, since our IPO, defined a strategy which is very much built on sustainability, and we've made a number of acquisitions in this area. The first area is wood-based prefabricated solutions, which you can see on the picture on the upper right. And obviously wood replaces cement-based products and is a CO2 absorber, whereas cement is a huge CO2 emitter. So a very significant contribution to making construction much more environmentally friendly. The second avenue is green infrastructure, basically green roofs or green areas in the city. And we've been in that business now for over 2 years, especially in Sweden with the acquisition of Vectec. And we plan to expand this area further in the future. And the third avenue we entered last year is the installation of solar panels, obviously contributes to clean energy. So this is the four avenues we have, and you can see them on the right on the pictures we have. Let's move on to the next slide. Here you can see that our main application area is on the left. It's big box type of buildings where we basically produce everything that's required for the outer shell of that building. And on the right, you can see we are also active in homes or individual houses, villas, where we, again, provide all sorts of waterproofing material. We also provide pond lining. We've entered that business last year in the Benelux, where we're also able to supply swimming ponds, which are basically swimming pools, which are much more environmentally friendly, no chlorine use, and integrated into the environment. So in both cases, we provide basically whatever is required for the outer shell of the buildings. Moving on to the next slide, you can see that we not only produce material, but we also install. We act as a contractor, usually as a subcontractor to the main contractor who doesn't install roofing themselves, but also selling to outside independent contractors. And again, we are a contractor and a service provider in basically all products we produce ourselves. Moving on to the next page. This is a short description of how we go to market. You can see that the bulk of our sales, 70%, is direct sales to contractors, specialized contractors, roofing contractors. And as I just mentioned, some of them we own ourselves, especially in Finland, and others in all countries are independent contractors, usually small to medium-sized companies, quite often family-owned. And we have a very close relationship with these customers. We provide not only our products, but we help them in a number of fields like their marketing, their systems, their legal, their financial issues, and have a very close and sticky relationship with them. The second main channel we use is builders merchants, distribution outlets. 30% of our materials go through that channel. There it's a bit different. These people basically service smaller contractors who buy a number of different product categories in one go and have them delivered to their job site, so they can buy everything they need on one job site, and it might fit onto one truck or two trucks, and they get it at the distributor. So there's a logistics function which these people provide. There's also a credit risk function which they take on. So we are present in both of these distribution modes. Moving to next page. You have on the right, you can see our footprint, obviously based out of the Nordic countries, but also significant presence in terms of production and installation services in Benelux, especially, and the UK, but also in Germany, Poland, and Switzerland. So a Northern European footprint. Most of our material doesn't travel that far, which is an explanation for our footprint, but it's also a significant advantage because it limits how many competitors from the international arena you would get in this industry. So basically it's a local industry with local competition and a relatively consolidated market. Usually you have 3, 4, 5 players in each country. Customers are extremely local. There's no significant international customer basically in our type of business. In terms of the cyclicality of our business, we have a big part, 50% of what we do goes into renovation, which is a very stable demand area. Half of what we do goes into new build, where you could have some cyclicality, but basically in the last 4 years, that has also been quite flat, and there's been a good demand level throughout this period. Moving on to next page. There's a bit more about our strategy, and as I mentioned, starting from our core business, we have a clear direction into sustainable solutions. That's where most of our acquisitions over the last 4 years have taken place. So wood-based prefabricated elements, especially in Denmark and Norway. These are solutions where quite large elements are manufactured in the plant and then very quickly put on the building on the job site. So a huge advantage in terms of the quality of the work, because you work in a closed, protected environment. The speed of how fast you can build, obviously many times faster than when you do everything on the job site. And clearly there's a trend towards this sort of solution in the, I would say, general market in Europe and especially in the Nordics. The second avenue, green infrastructure, I mentioned. We've started in Sweden, but we're now looking at trying to expand this business, both geographically and also in terms of the product spectrum we offer. Third example, solar panels, obviously environmental friendly. It's a small business right now for us in Finland, but we certainly hope to expand it throughout our geography. The second avenue in terms of our strategy is to enhance our product and service offering. What I mean by that is that our customers are usually very happy with our service level, and they like to purchase more different product categories from us, and there's some opportunities in that area to expand our portfolio further. The third strategic avenue is a bit more specific to certain businesses. It's a downstream integration, where we basically, from a manufacturer of products position, move into installation services, where, for example, in our rubber waterproofing membranes, we can prefabricate again a whole roof. What you do is you measure out the roof, then you produce the whole waterproofing area, and you put it on the roof very fast compared to applying each roll of waterproofing individually. And there you need specialized shops, and we have those in Benelux, Holland, Belgium, in the UK, Poland, Sweden. And whenever there's an opportunity throughout Europe, basically we will have a very close look at that. So a number of acquisitions, usually small to medium size, has been done in the last 4 years, and 2020 has been a bit more quiet on that front, but now you might have noticed we've made 2 acquisitions already. We've announced yesterday another acquisition in Finland, again in the wood-based solutions arena. So we believe that this year will be quite an active year in terms of acquisitions for us. Moving on to the next page, I will, and the page after, a short reminder on our results. 2020 has been our best year ever, both in terms of sales and especially in terms of profitability, a very good year. We have benefited from good demand and also from relatively low input costs. That might slightly change in the future. And basically, maybe to answer some of your coming questions, we don't expect a huge increase in our margins. We believe, if you look at the historic trends, the last 10 years, for example, we believe we are at a very high, pretty high margin level, and we are certainly going to try to maintain it, but it will be difficult to expect a significant jump in profitability, return on capital or sales in the future, especially with the present uncertainties in the ongoing pandemic. The acquisitions I alluded to has been in the last 12 months Playgreen, the solar panel installation company in Finland, one waterproofing contractor in Norway, Byggpartner, which we acquired 2 months ago, and a third company in the Netherlands, which makes ponds and landscaping based on synthetic rubber waterproofing membranes. And that is a business which we entered a few years ago in Belgium, and which we are now expanding in terms of our geographic footprint. Next page gives you a bit more details on the figures, and you can see that net sales increased last year by 7% organically. We had a slight negative forex impact from the stronger SEK. EBITDA made a significant jump. We moved from 371 million SEK to 455 in 2020, and EBITDA margin increased by 2 points, and for the reasons I just mentioned. And our ROCE, which is our key financial performance metric, improved significantly to 15.5%, where we have a 13% basic target as a yardstick for what we want to achieve. So we are right now at a quite good level for this sort of business. Moving on to next page, you can see that our cash flow, which is traditionally strong, we have a relatively high cash conversion throughout our cycle, and last year was a bit exceptional because we were able to reduce our working capital a bit after the pandemic became a bit more predictable, and we had a 102% cash conversion, which obviously is not going to continue. But I think it's good to see that we've generated significant cash and that we're able to propose a significant dividend payment to the General Assembly. Moving on to next page, which is basically my last slide. It's a reminder of our financial targets. In terms of sales growth, and I would like to say immediately, we ticked all the 4 boxes again in 2020. And our sales growth is to basically take market share if we can, and we've been able to do that again in most of our businesses. We want to grow a bit more than the market intrinsic demand. In terms of profitability, 13% ROCE is our yardstick. We would like to lie at 13% plus. Capital structure, we want a net debt on EBITDA ratio to be 3 times or slightly below. Right now, we are quite far from that. We are close to 0, basically, at the end of last year, which gives us a lot of headroom for acquisitions this year. And as I mentioned, in terms of dividend policy, we want to distribute at least 50% of net income, and we're doing that again if our proposition is confirmed by the General Assembly, and we would like to distribute 10 SEK per share, which is basically 550 based on 2020 and 450, which we did not distribute based on 2019 because of the pandemic. So a total of 10 SEK this year. Yeah, that's about what I had to say in a few words, and I'm very much looking forward to your questions.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot. We have a few questions here, and the first one is that in your ambition to become more of a sort of one-stop shop, and you alluded to that in the presentation also, what kind of products and services will you look to add?
Yeah, there's a number of things. Maybe I start with the things we probably don't want to add because they're quite significant. You could argue we might become a producer of insulation material. It's very close to what we're doing. But because of the structure of that industry and the very high capital intensity of that industry, it's not something we want to focus on. And we are going to focus more on lighter types of industries, and you could argue that safety equipment for roofers is one obvious area. You could argue that metal accessories to the roof are a field which we are interested, that sort of thing. So basically accessories which have some relationship with the external shell of a building.
Okay, so in the prefabrication side of the business, sort of you're not looking to sort of expand into sort of whole buildings in a way, or sort of lighter structures or module buildings?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we don't want to, I don't know, compete with Honka or whoever is active in this field. No, we want to basically, again, keep it to the outer shell of the building, and we probably don't want to install kitchens, that sort of thing. So develop the prefabricated roof and facade part of the building. And we believe that geographically there's a lot of room for expansion in that respect. We are right now in Denmark and Norway, but we believe it would make a lot of sense to move into other Nordic countries and even into countries like Germany or UK in that respect. So there's a lot of field, and it's a big, significant demand tailwind. I think it's clearly a mode of construction which is getting a lot of traction, and I think the underlying organic growth of demand will be significant.
Mm. And what about the sort of vertical integration closer to the customers? Does that also mean that sort of the installation services part of the business would increase?
Yeah, that is possible. And I would say it's not a huge drive for us in the sense that we're already quite well represented. We have a good, significant market share in Finland. We have a network of franchisee companies in Denmark who together, again, have a strong market position. We moved recently into Norway on a smallish scale. And we don't have any specific plans in Sweden. But again, if we move into that business in Sweden, we would be extremely careful not to disrupt our customers because we would potentially compete with them. So I would say in that respect, it's very much an opportunistic avenue, which makes sense in some cases, but it's not a major strategic drive.
Mm. And the solar panel side of things, that is, of course, pretty interesting, given that the interest is increasing in solar panels. But how big opportunity is that if you sort of focus on that side only?
I think clearly it's a growing opportunity, and it has changed over the last 10 years, I would say, because prices of solar panels and the energy produced have come down dramatically. And I think that will feed additional growth on a significant scale. So I think it's something where we both look at geographic expansion and a generalization of demand.
But if we look sort of 5-10 years down the road, do you believe that solar panels alone can be 5, 10, 20% of the business, or?
That's maybe a bit on the high side, but something between 5 and 8% would be quite possible.
Mm. And how about the acquisitions? I mean, you started off quite high pace now in the start of 2021. And where do you see most acquisitions coming from now? Or sort of, you made one in Finland, but is it more sort of towards Germany and the outside of the Nordic region you see future acquisitions?
Yeah, short answer is probably that we remain focused on the Nordic countries, and we see enough opportunities there. And again, we would certainly not be opposed to Germany, UK. We've been quite active in Benelux throughout the period. So I guess the priority is Scandinavia, Nordic countries, and Benelux. But again, open to anything in continental Europe too. But I would say the emphasis again is maintained in terms of the size of the companies. We don't want to absorb huge targets, and obviously they are not as many, but we want to focus on small to medium size companies, usually where we have a one-on-one conversation with the owners and where we have a good knowledge of the company involved.
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable. And you also said that you didn't believe in higher margins going forward, and you've been sort of beating the return on capital employed target for many years now. So it's not time to sort of step it up a bit, or?
Not really, you know. If you look at the last 10 years, we have never lost money. So we've always had a reasonable return on sales. So it's a fairly stable business. Reason for that is that the variable cost is a very high part of total cost, which means that people usually don't go into a price war because they lose cash immediately, basically. So, but I would say the counterpoint to that is that you can't have huge increases in margins, and we basically don't want to do that to our customers. I think we want to have a fair relationship with them, and we don't want to create a huge price umbrella which would incite a new competition to come on board.
That also sounds reasonable. And given the sort of new regulations that have come into force this year in the European Union regarding new buildings to be sort of close to zero in terms of energy emissions, how would you see that playing out for demand in your industry?
Yeah, I think it's very good news, of course, and it certainly feeds through when you look at the renovation side of things, where we see a number of projects where facades are changed to wood-based and basically better insulation. And in terms of new build, it might also create an additional demand layer in terms of new build. It's another reason to maybe build something new rather than keep old buildings who are far from energy efficient. So I think I could see in the medium long term a significant positive impact on demand levels. And
would you dare to give some number in terms of sort of?
That's tricky because one reason is that we have had quite strong demand in the Nordic countries now for quite a number of years. So it's a bit difficult. You have the pandemic. I mean, nobody knows what exactly the consequences in the medium long term will be. So I would be careful about prognostics.
Exactly.
But it's a positive effect quite clearly.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of talk about it, but no one sort of, you can see the effect somewhere, but no one is really sure how it will play out eventually. Yeah. So.
No, and the building industry is a slow-moving industry in general, so that might play into it too.
Exactly. I think we are starting to conclude here because we are approaching our deadline. And well, thanks a lot, Martin, for joining in and presenting.
It's been a pleasure.
And we look forward to an exciting year for Nordic Waterproofing Group.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.